Members, good afternoon. It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the Bills Committee on Tobacco Control Legislation Amendment Bill 2025. Agenda Item 1, Meeting with the Administration. Let's ask the clerk to invite the government representatives to join us first. Government representatives, if you are ready, well, let me first tell members that the Bills Committee invited the public to provide submissions. As at the deadline, we received a total of 874 submissions. The administration will give a consolidated response to the submissions received. Perhaps I'll first invite Dr. Libby Lee, Undersecretary for Health, to walk us through the consolidated response. Undersecretary, please. Thank you, Chairman. Members, the government would like to thank the public for providing their views. We've already received the submissions and we've also provided a consolidated written response. I'd like to give a brief reply. The health risks of smoking are indisputable. One cigarette contains over 70 chemicals and carcinogens. Among the 580,000 smokers in Hong Kong, half of them are in the middle age, and a lot of them have chronic illnesses. Lung cancer and heart diseases will add to the burden of the healthcare system. Frontline healthcare workers, they face this every day, and that's why the healthcare sector supports the bill. We have the lowest smoking rate among the world, and we're the longest living region in the world, and this is because of our tobacco control measures. Tobacco traders, of course, object to the tobacco control measures. And the package covers up the harm of tobacco. If we remain complacent, we will see a rebound of the hazards. Some are of the view that we should not be more stringent compared to the mainland or other places. In fact, in Healthy China 2030 planning outlines, tobacco control is listed as one of the key public health initiatives in the mainland. Hong Kong can contribute to the mainland in this regard by stepping up tobacco control. And the plain package measures, it is in line with the global trend, and the bill gives us a chance to catch up. Local surveys show that we suffer a loss of $8.2 billion per year because of tobacco control. In 2023, it was reported that 180 billion euros per year were lost because of tobacco products. In fact, health and tobacco products can coexist. Since the expansion of no smoking area in 2007, we haven't seen a drop in businesses in restaurants. It shows that a fresh environment is the real appeal. Some tobacco control measures, such as banning of ASPs, may affect people's choice. Some tobacco traders, they cover up the carcinogens harm and make people addicted to nicotine. This is a real deprivation. Our community has to pay the bill because of the hazards. We have to respect the rights of non-smokers as well. A lot of parents teacher associations support the bill. One of the main points of the bill is to prevent the new generation to get addicted to tobacco, and this bill addresses the concerns. We adopt an incremental approach, and we adopt a phased approach to implementing the tobacco control measures. We are happy to take questions from members. Thank you, Undersecretary. Now I open the floor for questions. There is a consolidated response from the administration. I believe you have questions for the administration on that. So this part of the meeting will be dedicated to a discussion on policy matters. A couple of members have asked to speak. I'll invite Ms. Carmen Khan to speak first, 4 minutes, including questions and answers. Thank you. Well, I actually pressed the button in the previous meeting, and this is carried forward to this meeting. Is that right? Yes. A couple of members pressed the button in the previous meeting, but there wasn't enough time, and we were having a discussion on the policy matters, and I'd like to give you, who had pressed the button last time, a chance to speak. Thank you for being fair and impartial, Chairman. And the last meeting, well, before this consolidated written response, I had a couple of questions already. So I'd like to ask the questions I had last time on the implementation timetable. The Undersecretary just now said that the administration has taken into consideration a myriad of factors. For example, there will be the use of technology and testing, and those that will be applied by the Customs and Excise Department. Those measures will be implemented at a later stage. Now, under the bill, if the tobacco products are cheaper than the duty-paid products, then you'll have to prove that you have already paid the duty. Also, some of the measures will be implemented on the 1st of January 2026. I'm concerned about the measure about prohibiting the provision of smoking products to persons aged below 18. Well, I'm concerned about the impacts of tobacco products on young people. So that will take place on the 1st of January 2026, and the prohibition of ASP will take place on the 30th of April 2026, and there will be a 4-month window between the two measures. Will that give a chance for young people to be exposed to the ASPs? It's the 4-month window. Deputy Secretary. Members asked about prohibiting the provision of smoking products to persons aged below 18, and Ms. Rebecca Chen asked whether this measure could be implemented earlier. As said last time, we are reviewing the commencement date for this measure. We do want to implement this measure earlier. We're looking at the overall timetable now. We're moving towards the direction in which we can implement this earlier. On banning the possession of ASPs, it will be implemented by the 30th of April next year. Some said that we imposed a ban on the 30th of April 2022, and according to the consultation, it's enough to give people 4 years to clear the stocks. Well, these ASPs cannot or should not be imported now, not to mention providing them to our children. So we will see if there is room to implement the ban on providing smoking products to those aged below 18 earlier. Chairman, it'd be great if this ban on providing smoking products to those aged below 18 could be implemented earlier. So my view is in line with that of Ms. Rebecca Chen. I understand why you are implementing the ban on ASPs or prohibition of possessing ASPs on the 30th of April because you're giving 4 years time for people to clear the stocks. Now I understand why there is this window. Next, Ms. Lillian Kwok. I'd like to follow up on the question that I raised in the previous meeting about prohibiting smoking while queuing. You said that with more than 2 people queuing and there is someone smoking, it would be against the law. Say I am the first one in the queue and someone lines up behind me and that person is smoking. I think there will be difficulties to enforce the law in such situations. How would you enforce the law in such circumstances? Secondly, on prohibiting the provision of smoking products to persons aged below 18, I think it should be implemented as early as possible. I think even now, smoking products should not be provided to those aged below 18. The fixed penalty is set at $3,000. I want to know what you mean by a small amount. Say I give a person aged below 18 a pack of 19 cigarettes. Is that considered as a small amount? And also, how did you come up with the $3,000 of fixed penalty? So the first question is about smoking while queuing, and secondly, how did you come up with the fixed penalty of $3,000? I'll address the first question first. Well, if you are at a bus stop and it is clear that there is a sheltered waiting area, I suggest that you do not smoke because it will be against the law. In other waiting areas without those yellow boxes, well, I suggest that you shouldn't smoke in those areas either. You should start queuing after you've completed the cigarette. Deputy Secretary, on the fixed penalty level, a small amount means not more than 19 sticks of cigarettes that are not for commercial use. And you will get a fixed penalty through summary conviction. And you also can be liable to a level 3 fine of $10,000 if it is more than 19 sticks of cigarettes through summary conviction. If the situation gets worse, the fine can go up to $25,000. So $3,000 only apply to the simplest cases. If the cases are serious, then there will be a court proceeding and a fine. On prohibiting smoking while queuing, shouldn't you ban people from smoking in all waiting areas? It will make law enforcement easier. You said there will be waiting areas with yellow boxes. Well, why don't you tell people not to smoke while they wait for public transport? If you want to smoke, you have to complete your cigarette before you get to the waiting area. Now, on providing smoking products to persons aged below 18, say someone might say, I'm just placing the smoking product here, and the young people, they pick up the products themselves. I might gesture or give eye contact to a young person without actually handing a tobacco product to them. So how would you deal with such situations?
Thank you, Ms. Kwok, for the question. We've considered this possibility. There are families who have not quit smoking and they may still possess smoking products. at their homes. If the scope of the provision is too wide, then young people may be charged if they just pick up a cigarette at their home. We don't want there to be too much enforcement actions. If the scenario you described actually happens, we will look into the details of the case and the facts. Ms. Chan He-yan, thank you. On prohibition of the provision of smoking products to persons aged below 18, I'm glad that the government is considering advancing the date of implementation. The Deputy Secretary said that a fixed penalty of $3,000 will be imposed on less serious crimes. And for more serious crimes, level 3 will be imposed, $10,000, serious cases, $25,000. On penalty for ASP, we're talking about level 5, $50,000, and imprisonment of 6 months. The government has all along been trying to prevent young people from smoking or picking up cigarettes for the first time. I'm talking about persons aged below 18. I think that regardless of whether they are smoking ASP or cigarettes, they should be penalized at the same level. For less serious crimes, I think that the wording used may be misleading. As a parent myself, I think providing smoking products to persons aged, say, 9 or 10 is very serious. I think that we should raise the penalty. Second, I'd like to talk about no smoking areas, NSA. Currently, we ban smoking at all indoor areas. However, areas with cordons covering 50% of their boundary, or those with shelters or covered, will be considered outdoor areas. At Meifu, at a shopping center, there is a place where people gather there every Wednesday and Thursday. There is a corridor that is half open with a shelter. People smoke there. And this secondhand smoke generated will be entering the indoor area. So how can we protect people from the secondhand smoke? This type of existing establishments is not covered in the proposed amendments. I wonder if you will target this type of buildings. So 2 questions. First, on the definition of less serious crimes, and second, NSAs. Deputy Secretary, I will take the first question. On the fixed penalty level, for people possessing less than 19 sticks of cigarettes for non-commercial purpose, they will be subject to a fixed penalty. We're not saying that they are less serious crimes, but they don't exceed the aggravating factors. For those that exceed aggravating factors, we are going to impose summary convictions. We consider these offenses serious because otherwise we wouldn't be imposing penalty. What about the second question? I will take the question. Thank you. Regarding the places mentioned by Ms. Chen, well, because outdoor areas are places with good ventilation, we don't think that the impact of secondhand smoke will be as serious. Buildings are of different ages in Hong Kong. For the places that you mentioned, they may be considered outdoor area, but they are with poor ventilation. That's why we empower the secretary to designate a large areas as NSAs, and we hope to plug the loophole with these provisions. Mr. Tang Fei. Thank you, Chairman. My question is rather simple. These tobacco control measures will further combat smoking. What I'm worried is whether the following scenarios will be regulated. Sellers of illicit cigarettes don't just distribute order sheets at public housing estates. They put up advertisements on Instagram, Facebook, and X. I saw them. These companies hire a large amount of underage people and teenagers with high salary. If you ask trade practitioners, they will be able to tell you that they are actually selling illicit cigarettes by hiring young people. They are very fake in the wordings on their advertisement. They say that the jobs are with high pay and little workload. So can we control this type of advertisements? Because these companies hand the illicit cigarettes over to the young people, and these young people sell the products to the wider public. A second scenario. What I'm talking about is a very serious problem. These young people could be the wholesalers or retailers of illicit cigarettes. The market valuation we're talking about here could be very substantial. But our tobacco control measures cannot regulate such activities, and this is actually a loss of revenue or duty to the government. And these illicit cigarettes could be of low prices. As someone from the education sector, I am very worried about this. How should we deal with this problem? Undersecretary, I will ask Mr. Hui, Deputy Commissioner of Customs and Excise, to take the question. Thank you. We do notice that there are companies who lure young people to purchase the products by way of advertisements. We actually conduct online patrol every day. When we detect these type of activities, we talk to the owner of the platform, asking them to take down the advertisement. If we found out that they are actually engaging in illicit activities, we will take enforcement action. Mr. Tang. Is there a phone where we can make a report? Yes, we do have a hotline, 182-8080. So if you receive such a report, you will take down the advertisement. Next, Dr. David Lam. I didn't press the button. Sorry, that was carried forward from the last meeting. Next, Mr. Xu Kafei. Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for the Undersecretary. The administration received many submissions, and in her reply, she talked about the hazards of smoking. I think that we all are aware of it. So how many people support and how many are against your tobacco control measures? Undersecretary. Thank you. There are supporting and objecting views received. Different industries gave it different comments. The medical, education, the business sectors, along with professional bodies, actually submitted us with representations. They all focus on health, and they said that we should not slow down on our efforts. They said that the new generations are susceptible to bad influence. Most of them rely on the economy as the reason for support or objection. We received over 800 submissions. People gave us their views. Making use of this opportunity, we are going to give you a written reply. So have you read the submissions? How many support your control measures and how many object to your measures? I think that the ratio is 50-50. Many only submitted their views after the deadline. All I can say is that there are many views in support and against the measures. Well, I think that the 50-50 ratio is rather reasonable. We've been talking about tobacco control measures for a year in the Legislative Council. In the previous public meetings or public hearings held, about 50% of the people were against and 50% of the people are for the measures. I believe that around 40% of the people are against the measures, around 50% support your measures. In the last meeting, the Undersecretary said that 90% of the people supported your tobacco control measures in your survey. So I wonder why, according to your survey, over 90% of the people supported your measures. Undersecretary, we have discussed this question many times. We have only 10% of smokers in Hong Kong. Over 90% of people don't smoke here. There are many reasons as to why people to submit their views to us. It could be because smoking affects them a lot. Apart from looking at the figures, we should also look into the content of the submissions. Chairman, I have a follow-up question. I know that you have issued a questionnaire. I wondered if other members have read the questionnaire. The first question is, do you support tobacco control? If you support it, you will be given a series of questions. If you don't support it, then you don't have to answer any follow-up questions. So there's no way for you to give any views if you don't support tobacco control in Hong Kong. It could be the case that 90% of the people support your measures, but you have to give us more details. I don't think that 90% of Hong Kong people support your measures. Because according to the surveys that other organizations conduct, about 50% of people are in support of the measures. Many people are very inclusive and forgiving. Even though they may not be smokers themselves, they want to keep this opportunity open for smokers. you have to clarify that 90% of the people who are against smoking support your tobacco control measures, because the survey outcome that you have is inconsistent with other surveys.
好嘛？
This is a suggestion. Next, Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I want to follow up on a question I raised in the previous meeting. In the last meeting, I asked the administration about the paper. According to the paper, dozens of countries and regions have tobacco control strategies. I asked 2 questions in the previous meeting, but one of the questions was not addressed by the Undersecretary. My question was which country or region bans e-cigarettes, water pipe tobacco products, and menthol cigarettes. On the 14th of May, the day following the previous meeting, the administration issued a declaration and statement saying that about 50 countries and regions have imposed the same ban. I think we should make use of this platform to have a constructive discussion. My question was not addressed during the meeting, but the day following that meeting, the administration issued a statement. I don't think this is facilitating a constructive discussion. I want the administration to answer my question, that is, which country or region in the world bans e-cigarettes, water pipe tobacco products, and menthol cigarettes? Undersecretary, please. I'll ask Dr. Feng to elaborate, but before that, I'd like to make 2 points. Each place sees a different pace of tobacco control. Some go faster, others move more slowly. Do all countries follow the same milestones? Not necessarily. So I don't think it is just for us to make such a comparison with other places. Now, the second question is about why we did not address the question during the meeting, but we issued a statement in the following day. Well, sometimes we do not have enough time during the meeting, and I could not answer the question. Also, sometimes we see misinformation from media reports, and we have the responsibility to make clarifications. We welcome any discussions at the community level, but we do need to clarify things if there are misinformation. Yes, Dr. Feng. The WHO and other organizations conducted studies. It's hard for us to give you all the information. The EU, for example, has banned all flavored cigarettes. Some countries, they ban e-cigarettes, like Belgium and France. They have banned e-cigarettes. In the UK, well, it's not part of the European Union, but it has banned flavored cigarettes as well as disposable e-cigarettes. In Australia, not all types of ASPs are banned. E-cigarettes can only be sold in pharmacies. Heated tobacco products are banned. But at the same time, in Australia, fruit-flavored or confectionery-flavored cigarettes are not banned. Is it fair to make a direct comparison with all countries? Well, we don't think so, because tobacco control strategies of different places are regulated by the Convention on Tobacco Control. So when we look at other practices, we see whether the tobacco control strategy are met with any obstacles. But the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control has given a reference for us. Miss Connie Lam. Thank you. I'd like to follow up on a question I raised in the previous meeting about hand-rolled cigarettes as well as tobacco pipes. I asked about the traders of these types of tobacco products. This is a declining industry. Last time, Dr. Feng said these traders, they sell traditional tobacco products, not flavored cigarettes. However, 99.99% of the hand-rolled cigarettes are flavored. Same for tobacco pipes. Well, there's no way for us to stop the administration from implementing tobacco control measures. For this declining industry, are there ways to support the industry? If you ban these tobacco products altogether, the elders may lose their jobs. Undersecretary, Ms. Lam mentioned this in the last meeting. Well, I want to talk about flavored tobacco products. It's not that we are targeting a specific type of tobacco products. Flavored cigarettes make it easy for people to consume tobacco products. We don't want the new generation to consume flavored tobacco products because it helps cover up the irritation. If I do not ban flavored cigarettes, I'm indirectly encouraging people to take flavored cigarettes. Under the WHO framework, as well as according to our understanding, well, we look at all types of tobacco products. We will not just ban one type of tobacco product and allow flavored cigarettes to be sold because this will not render tobacco control efforts effective. As to whether this is a declining industry, well, we all know that cigarettes and tobacco products are bad for our health. We need to give time to the industry to transform itself. Selling cigarettes will not benefit the community, so we encourage people to quit smoking if they are smoking, and if they have not started smoking, they should stay away from cigarettes. Ms. Lam, this will encourage trading of illicit cigarettes as well as the trading carried out in the black market. This is a view from the member. Well, we are going to put in place measures to combat illicit cigarettes. Some members have asked to speak for the second round. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask about the international tobacco control strategies. Starting from paragraph 20 of the paper, well, there is a mention about international practices, like in Canada since 2018. There's been a ban on different types of tobacco products, including menthol cigarettes, and the overall smoking rate has been on decline. Same for the EU. It has banned flavored cigarettes since 2020, and those above 15 years old, there is a drop in their smoking rate. Well, you have provided us with these statistics, and you said we are only catching up with the international practice on tobacco control. Can you tell us why you're only banning menthol cigarettes in Q2 2027? And it is not a fixed date. You said you are balancing the potential impacts on traders. Now, on water pipes, according to CAP 371, water pipe tobacco products are same as other smoking products? Is it that water pipe tobacco products are the same as other smoking products? Is that the right interpretation? Now, on the timetable as well as the question about water pipes, Under Secretary, on menthol cigarettes, we want to ban them together with fruit-flavored cigarettes. However, during the public consultation, we got divergent views. Ms. Carmen Khan as well as other members of the public told us to ban all these tobacco products together in one go. We also got, however, views that we should not touch menthol cigarettes. We should only ban the other types of flavored cigarettes. Well, after considering both views, we are of the view that we should ban all these cigarettes. The EU has already banned menthol cigarettes. Hong Kong is lagging behind. Our view is that we should ban the flavored cigarettes first, and afterwards we will ban menthol cigarettes. Should we ban all these products in one go? Technically speaking, we can do that. However, we have taken into consideration divergent views during the public consultation. Now, on water pipes, it is one of the traditional tobacco products. If we are going to ban flavored traditional tobacco products, we are going to ban flavored water pipe products as well. Ms. Rebecca Chan, I'd like to ask about the half-open area. After the passage of the bill, the Secretary can are empowered to designate certain places as no smoking area. Will the half-open area of shopping malls be designated as no smoking areas? In the previous meeting, some members asked when the Secretary will designate certain places as no smoking areas. I think the half-open area of shopping malls should be included as a permanent no smoking area. Now, on combating illicit cigarettes and cheap whites, I think this is an important work of the Customs and Excise Department. If the Customs and Excise Department cannot do that, then we won't be able to yield effective results in our tobacco control efforts. We've talked about introducing the labeling system for a while. It looks like we'll have to wait longer for the system to be implemented. Are there ways to speed up the labeling system? There are different ways for people to smuggle illicit cigarettes. If you do not implement the labeling system, offenders will be able to make use of the loopholes. Also, there is mention that without the duty stamp, traders selling those cigarettes will be against the law. Well, they may mix up cigarettes with and without the duty stamp. Are there going to be challenges in terms of law enforcement? Also, there were discussions that each cigarette could have a duty stamp, but according to the bill, the duty stamp will only be affixed on the package or on a pack of cigarettes. Well, the package could be recycled with the duty stamp. How come we cannot have a duty stamp on each cigarette stick?
Under Secretary, I will ask the Deputy Commissioner of CNE to talk about the duty stamp. There are two ways for us to designate NSAs, but we have to look into the technical aspects of it. How can we delineate the area, but the two ways you suggested are enforceable. If we have the secretary designate NSAs, it will give us the impression that the NSA is time limited. That's my personal view. Deputy Commissioner of Customs and Excise on combating illicit cigarettes. Thank you. We're going to implement the duty stamp regime. Let me talk about the background of it so that you understand more about our control. There will be two counterfeit features. The first one is a physical one, and second is a digital feature. Each duty stamp will be accorded with a separate serial number, and that serial number will contain all the information of that batch of cigarettes. So when we check the stamp, we would know where the cigarettes come from and their serial number. So we will be able to control the flow of the cigarettes on combating cheap whites and illicit cigarettes. Currently, there's no way for us to distinguish if a cigarette is duty paid or not. With the duty stamp system, people will be able to tell whether a package of cigarettes is duty paid. Last year, we engaged a consultant to conduct research. In the 50 countries, we found out that only one place has, accord a independent serial number or barcode on a stick of cigarette, and that barcode is not, it's the same, and that's why we propose to only affix a duty stamp on a pack of cigarettes instead of on every stick of cigarette. What about the problem of reusing the duty stamp? I could use the same carton to contain different cigarettes, whether they are duty paid or cheap whites. I could just recover the boxes or cartons. There are many different ways for people to smuggle cigarettes into the market. Deputy Commissioner, as mentioned, we are implementing a pilot scheme. We're going to affix the duty stamp on the opening of the carton. So when you open the carton, the duty stamp will be destroyed. We're not trying to penalize smokers. We want to combat the problem at source, that is, smugglers. This is way more effective. Chairman, I think that it's easy for us to circumvent the laws. I don't think people purchasing illicit cigarettes would care if there is a duty stamp on the cartons. So as long as they carry a cartons with a duty stamp affixed on it, they would not be caught. So it seems that there is still a loophole, and there is a place that affix a stamp duty on each and every stick of cigarette. If we affix the duty stamp on each and every stick of cigarette, then we will be able to tell whether the cigarette is duty paid or not. If I'm already smoking the cigarettes, of course, the carton that I am carrying with me would be opened. I think that there is still a loophole. That's my view. I think that you have to look into it. Your view is very clear. Next, Mr. Xu Kafei. Thank you. I'd like to respond to Ms. Doreen Kong's question. on what countries combat flavored cigarettes, ESPs, and conventional cigarettes altogether. Dr. Fung said that they have not conducted any comprehensive survey. They said that each countries have their own policy. Say Europe ban e-cigarettes, some countries ban flavored cigarettes. I understand why Ms. Khan put the question, I guess. We have to look into our legislative intent and we have to compare our laws with our neighboring places and major countries in the world. Because if our practice does not align with theirs, then people may not feel good when they come to Hong Kong. Because we live in the same world village. This is such an important piece of legislation. I find it strange that you have not compared our local legislation with that of the others. The Customs and Excise Department said that they have compared the duty stamp regime in Hong Kong with that of other countries. I think that his answer is comprehensive enough. Ms. Khan, I have actually looked at other countries. Only 5 places ban all sorts of ASP and smoking products altogether. There's Sri Lanka, they include Ethiopia, Turkey, Brazil. We all know that they are not an international metropolis like Hong Kong. Europe, North America, famous Asian countries, Tokyo, Singapore, they are not places that ban all sorts of cigarettes. So this shows that our tobacco control measures is much more stringent than other advanced economies. And that may affect travelers coming to Hong Kong. The administration stresses that there is no impact. It's true that they may not affect all types of travelers. But for tourists who are used to smoking a certain type of products, if we don't sell them here, that would definitely discourage them from coming. Now I have to reiterate my stance. I want people to quit smoking because that's bad for health. I won't go into the hazards of smoking again. Now on the duty stamp regime, that's one of the tobacco control measures. I actually support most of the measures because those will discourage people from smoking, and that include the duty stamp system. I was actually the one who suggested the system to the government. So are you going to print the stamp onto the package, or are you going to put a sticker onto it? I think you're going to affix the QR code onto the package regardless of whether you are printing it on the package or putting a sticker. If the tobacco products is sold at a level lower than the duty, then people will have reasonable suspicion that is not duty paid. I think duty stamp system should be here to combat cheap whites instead of illicit cigarettes, because we have no way to tell where the illicit cigarettes come from. But the tobacco trade practitioners told me that it's easier for you to ask them to print the stamp onto the package instead of asking them to affix a sticker onto it. We're all trying to go paperless. So why don't you just ask the manufacturers to print the stamp onto the package? Who will take the question? Deputy Commissioner. Thank you. Under the duty stamp system, we're going to send the stamps to the manufacturers. When the manufacturers are producing the packaging or cartons, they will affix the stamp onto the opening of the cartons so that when smokers open the carton, the stamp will be destroyed. There are two counterfeit features. First is a physical feature and second, digital feature. Are you still able to scan the stamp if it's destroyed? If that's the case, then not. Well, if the QR code is destroyed, then can you still scan it? No. So why don't you just print it on the packaging? We're actually having the manufacturer print the QR code onto the packaging. So there is not a separate sticker. There is a separate sticker. The manufacturer will have to affix the sticker onto the packaging. Let me now take control of the meeting. You can press for the second round if you have further questions. Next, Ms. Doreen Kong. I thank Mr. Xu for his information. I'm not trying to encourage people to smoke. I'm against smoking. And I don't like secondhand smoke myself. I know it's hazardous to people's health. I support 9 out of the 10 measures. But as to the extent of control and its timetable, I have reservations. Because smokers and the business sector told me that they have different views. As a Legislative Council member, I think that I have the responsibility to reflect their views. I'm not trying to challenge the government, but as an international financial center, we must be clear about our positioning. It's not easy for us to come up with a policy, but we have to look at the economic implications of the policy, how it affects our image, and how it affects people's livelihood. That's why I've put the questions that I asked in the previous and this meeting. The government said that we are just catching up with some 50 countries. I don't think that's reasonable. That's my view. Second, the Undersecretary said time and again that each city and places have their own timetable and we have to take things step by step. In 2022, we banned the sale of ASPs. About 9%. Well, our smoking prevalence in 2023 is 9.1%. According to your timetable, by 2027, we're going to ban the flavored cigarettes, and as the next step, we're going to ban menthol cigarettes. If we have a smoking prevalence of less than 5%, then we can call ourselves cigarette-free. For Singapore, this prevalence is 8.8%. Do you think that we are taking things step by step? If we compare ourselves to other places?
Undersecretary, this is about the pace of rolling out your tobacco control strategies. Also, please take this opportunity to explain how this strategy will not tarnish our international reputation. I thank Ms. Kong for the questions. We have to take into consideration Hong Kong's image as an international city. Apart from developing our economy, we also want to develop ourselves into a healthy city. We want to turn Hong Kong into a prosperous city and also a city with people with good health. Are we being progressive? Well, we have short-term, medium-term, and long-term measures that span 10 years. Well, are we aggressive? In France, their target is to become a no-smoke country by 2032. Their smoking rate is a lot higher than ours, but they want to turn themselves into a no-smoking country within 7 years. So I think in this sense, France is a lot more aggressive. I understand that we need to take into consideration our international reputation. So that's why we have short, medium, and long-term measures that span 10 years. China is one party under the WHO framework. We think that we aren't aggressive to come up with short, medium, and long-term measures that span 10 years. Well, some people actually told us that we are moving too slowly. Next, Mr. Chen Pui-leung speaking for the first round. There was discussion about anti-forgery features for the duty stamp. It seems complicated. Well, by Q3 this year, there will be a pilot scheme. Have you talked to tobacco traders? Some of their packages might be manufactured overseas. Have you talked to them whether they have enough time to affix the duty stamp on the packages? About your communication with manufacturers on the duty stamp, I'll invite the Customs and Excise Department to tell you about that. Let me talk about the pilot scheme first. The scheme will be implemented in Q3 this year. We'll invite local manufacturers to take part in the pilot scheme. The reason is that we want to look at whether the duty stamp system will be effective. Manufacturers have to first apply for the duty stamp and they will then print the duty stamp on the packages. And the manufacturers have to be holders of the warehouses. And the duty stamp will then be printed on the packages, and these products will go onto the market. We want to regulate the entire production chain to see how we can make use of technology and logistics. We want to look at the entire industry chain and see whether the trade has any particular views on the process. So we want to make use of the pilot scheme to do that. Mr. Chen, any follow-up questions? It looks like you haven't got in touch with some of the local manufacturers and they are worried if they have enough time to affix the duty stamp on the packages. Well, make sure you have enough time for the manufacturers to do so. Mr. Peter Xu, I'd like to follow up on the questions I asked. If you can actually print a QR code on the packages, why ask the manufacturers to affix the duty stamp? There will be a higher administrative cost and there is also environmental issue. Mr. Hu, there are two types of anti-forgery features on the duty stamp. One is the QR code. Two is the physical features. To put it simply, it's like a banknote. There might be physical anti-forgery features so that it's hard for people to replicate the duty stamp. So we designate certain manufacturers to produce the duty stamp, and then we ask the manufacturers to affix the duty stamp on each package of cigarettes. This will make the regulation easier. Mr. Xu, the main purpose to have this duty stamp is to combat cheap whites. We have had long discussions about cheap whites in the market. In the past, there were cigarettes with duty paid, and we couldn't differentiate between cheap whites and duty paid cigarettes. If you have a QR code that is unique, then everyone in the world would know that this pack of cigarette is duty paid. Once you scan the QR code, you would be able to tell whether the pack of cigarette is duty paid. If you can achieve this with just a QR code, why do you bother implementing other anti-forgery measures? Mr. He, anything to add? Apart from the QR code as mentioned, there will be a physical anti-forgery feature, and this feature will be able to let people differentiate a pack of cheap whites with the duty-paid cigarette. With this duty stamp, even without scanning the QR code, people, just by looking at the duty stamp, they'll be able to tell whether this is a pack of duty-paid cigarettes. Well, I'm not actually asking a lot of questions. My questions are all very solid. I'm just asking whether it is necessary to have this physical anti-forgery feature. Most of the cigarettes you get from convenience stores, they are duty-paid cigarettes. It's not about whether the cigarettes are authentic or not. It's about whether they are duty-paid or not. In the future, you are going to give a QR code to the duty-paid cigarettes. With that QR code, it must be a pack of duty-paid cigarettes, so citizens will not have to worry about whether the cigarettes they buy are duty-paid or not. I seldom hear people wonder whether the cigarettes they buy are authentic or not. I'm just asking that you are making redundant efforts. With just the QR code, you won't need the physical duty stamp or physical anti-forgery feature, because the cost will be higher for the relevant parties, not to mention potential environmental issues. So CNED, please think about it seriously. Do you need the physical stamp? Now, Ms. Rebecca Chen is not here. I'd like to ride on what she said. Why do you not have a QR code for each cigarette stick? Chairman, well, I'll allow you to carry on. Hong Kong citizens or visitors can bring at most 19 sticks of cigarettes to Hong Kong. Over that number, you'll have to pay a duty. At the airport or at the border control point, you'll have to pay a duty if you bring more than 19 sticks of cigarettes. So if I see that you are carrying a pack of opened cigarettes, you cannot arrest that person. So anyone with a pack of open cigarettes that is not duty paid, you cannot arrest them. That's why Ms. Rebecca Chen said you can have a duty stamp on each cigarette stick. There are currently duty not paid cigarettes circulating in the market. In the future, even each cigarette stick may have a duty stamp. you may have someone carrying a pack of cigarettes with no duty stamp on each stick because he could tell you easily that he went to Shenzhen yesterday and his friend offered him cigarettes from the mainland. Well, please take note of this comment, CNED. Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on the consolidated response given by the administration. Point 9 is about the economy. The administration is being very optimistic. It said that there will be no smoking areas. And it could be a selling point for restaurants. And also a smoke-free environment will be popular among overseas visitors. Well, we need to adhere to a scientific approach. If you do think that a smoke-free environment is more popular among visitors, well, I'm thinking that Hong Kong should not be the only place to implement these tobacco control strategies. If a smoke-free environment will be so popular, you said a smoke-free environment will help boost economic growth. How many more visitors do you think you'll be able to bring in? How are you going to gauge the effectiveness in terms of economic growth? Well, Hong Kong may become the only international city that's smoke-free. Bars and restaurants may see more visitors because of the smoke-free environment. So how many more visitors do you think we will see in Hong Kong? We're spending billions of dollars on the healthcare system. On the other hand, you are saying that visitors' numbers will go up. Well, please tell us the number. Paragraph 11. The administration said we have to respect people's free will and right to know. Do you think that our adults are deprived of free will and right to know? According to a cancer research, 70% of smokers are aware of the harm of smoking. They know that it is linked to cancer. People who drink alcohol, only 13% of them know the linkage between cancer and alcohol consumption. That means smokers are aware of the harm, but alcohol drinkers, only 13% are aware of the harm. This is a recent research from the Institute for Cancer Research. Well, we've just reduced the alcohol or liquor duty. Well, if you think that free will is so important and that 70% of smokers are aware of the harm, well, how do you view the awareness of smokers and alcohol consumers in relation to the harm? Undersecretary. Well, let's not project the economic growth. Let's look at neighboring countries like Japan. Osaka and Tokyo see international activities, and indoor smoking has been banned because they want visitors to take part in their events and activities. In Shanghai, on the 13th of March this year, there are no smoking areas both indoor and outdoor, especially in some attraction sites. Well, Shanghai wants to have more visitors, especially in photo-taking spots. So there are reasons for us to believe that most non-smokers would like to go to smoke-free regions. Let's not look at Hong Kong. Our country also has implemented measures to combat smoking and to attract visitors. So there are reasons behind these tobacco control measures. Well, we did see more business in restaurants after the launch of no smoking areas. And we are seeing results in these measures. If we manage to implement tobacco control strategies effectively, we don't think there will be adverse impacts on the catering industry or on the tourism industry. Now, alcohol and tobacco are two very different things. If you drink next to me, I won't suffer from the harm, but if you smoke next to me, I will suffer from secondhand smoke. So the situation with alcohol and cigarettes are different. Also, there are substances in each cigarette that makes you addicted. Same for alcohol, but what is different with tobacco products is that there are chemicals that are addictive. Even if you know that they are harmful, once you get addicted, it will be very hard for you to quit. So we cannot make a direct comparison between tobacco products and alcohol. And the addiction is not just physical, but also mental. If you know anyone who smokes, you will know that smoking can make you addicted.
So this explains the government strategy on liquor and cigarettes. Mr. Xu Kafai, let me make a response. I know that in Ginza, Tokyo, Japan, people cannot smoke on the roads, but they do have smoking boxes on the streets. Some of my friends told me that they will never go to Ginza again because it's impossible for them to find any place to smoke. I think that non-smokers would go everywhere in the world. And smokers also go everywhere because there's no country that bans smoking altogether. You talked about Shanghai. They have no smoking areas and indoor and outdoor areas. That's what we're doing as well. What does a healthy city mean? What does healthy mean? Longevity is one of the factors. Of course, we can always do better, but I think that we have to look at the impact of our strategies as well. And then, 7 years later, you said that France will become a smoke-free city or country. I can bet with you. The smoking prevalence of France is 27%. Is it possible for them to become a smoke-free city in 2037? I don't believe that will happen. Coming back to this duty stamp system. Just now, Mr. Chan Pui-lan asked about the pilot scheme. 80% of tobacco products here are imported. About 10% of the products are locally manufactured. I think that you should engage the actual stakeholders. In Q2 2027, you're going to inform the stakeholders after the pilot scheme. So there's still a 2-year window for people to sell cheap whites. 80% of tobacco importers don't know what they should do. I don't mind about the pilot scheme, but I think you should talk to the importers. This is no secret. They all want to work with you. They want to know what they should do. after Q2 2027. Deputy Commissioner. Well, before the Commissioner give a reply, I'd like to address the question. Mr. Xu, you are correct. The examples I quoted mean that different cities have different strategies. We're more advanced in our strategies. That's why we call ourselves a demonstration zone. Apart from looking at the longevity of people, we also want to look at the quality of life. People of old age may not be healthy. We want our elderly to be in good health conditions as they age. That's why we promote silver economy. I will not bet with you on the case of France. Regarding the duty stamp system, I will ask the Deputy Commissioner to take the question. Can you communicate more with the tobacco manufacturers? Thank you. When we consulted the trade about the amendment, we've talked to the manufacturers and relevant stakeholders. Under the pilot scheme, we will maintain our communication with them. I agree with what Mr. Xu said. Most of the tobacco products here are imported. We will take note of that. We will involve importers and the entire tobacco trade in the pilot scheme so that they know more about our regulations and that we can solve any queries that they have. A quick response. Hong Kong is a part of our country. It's good if we can be a leader in terms of some good policies. But if we act too fast by banning, say, ASP and flavored cigarettes, then we are driving travelers away. I think that we have to look at our circumstances. I think that we should follow the rules and regulations of our country. It's good that you don't bet on friends with me because I'm going to win. Dr. David Lam. I'd like to pass this piece of legislation as soon as possible. I didn't put any questions, but that does not mean that I don't have any views. I don't think that we can lower our smoking prevalence to some 5% by 2050. In the 1980s, we stepped up our tobacco control measures. But since the 2020s, our smoking prevalence remained at some 9%. Give or take. So I'm anxious about this. For fruit-flavored cigarettes, it will be banned by 2027. Menthol cigarettes, when are we going to ban it? There is not a date in sight. As a parent, as a friend of other parents, when we travel, when we go to a restaurant, we don't just look at the price. We look at whether there will be secondhand smoke. If we see smokers in a restaurant, we don't go into it. That's one of our considerations. I'm sure that most parents share my view. We all know that health is our most precious assets. I am a doctor myself. I have seen patients suffering from lung cancers and other types of cancers because of drinking and smoking. The only beneficiary of the industry is tobacco companies. Smokers find it difficult to quit because they are addicted. The loss of productivity, lung cancer, carers also suffer. The burden posed onto the health system, social costs. These are all the harms caused by smoking. We have lowered liquor duty. I hope that the government will tell us how many more drinkers we have created because of the lowering of duty. I hope that the administration will give us these figures every year. Thank you. Undersecretary, any response? Thank you, Dr. Lam, for the question. We are anxious about this piece of legislation as well. We hope to step up control measures as soon as possible. We note Dr. Lam's concerns regarding the liquor duty. We're going to give you more figures later on. Ms. Doreen Kong and Mr. Shu Ka-fai would also like to put more questions. On economic impact, international image, and its duty stamp system. We have discussed these areas in detail earlier on. If members still want to put questions on these aspects, then I may shorten the time that you will be allowed to speak. Next, Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to talk about Osaka, Singapore, and Shanghai, as well as their practice to ban smoking in no-smoking areas. Singapore, the entire no smoking is allowed in the entire Orchard Road. I do think that we have to prevent secondhand smoke in certain areas. I don't object to it. But I think that's very much different from banning ASPs and e-cigarettes or flavored cigarettes. I have some questions. I'm not sure if you go to bars often. There are people who drink and smoke at bars. They know about the harmful effects of them, but they don't drink or smoke every day. There are social smokers or social drinkers. People say that we are too paternalistic. It seems that we are making decisions on behalf of adults in Hong Kong. So, what is the impact caused to social smokers or social drinkers? Say, if I ask you to drink with me at a bar next time, do you expect me to drink, say, Sprite with you? And if we just drink Sprite, how many hours do you think we can spend chatting in the bars? Do we have to ban all sorts of social smokings or social drinking? What impact will your measures bring? Thank you. I will ask Dr. Feng to take your question. Thank you. Now we are here to discuss tobacco control measures. There is not this concept of social smoking under a framework. Most smokers smoke on a daily basis because smoking is an addictive act. Nicotine is a very addictive substance. So there are about 600,000 people who have smoked in the past 30 days, and we have some 580,000 daily smokers. Regarding social drinking, Well, the piece of legislation in question today is not about that. Our legislation is to lower the smoking prevalence in Hong Kong. Thank you. Next, Mr. Xiu Kafei.
Thank you. Among the 10 tobacco control measures, one of them is about the packaging of cigarettes. I have some friends who smoke cigars. We know that cigars are very expensive. One pack can cost over $10,000. How come there are people who come to Hong Kong to get cigars? It's because we sell the real products. And there are anti-forgery logos on the cigars we sell. Will cigars be exempted from the packaging requirements in the future? I'd like the administration to clarify on this, on the Secretary. We've heard similar views. The packaging requirements for cigars will not be included in this bill. This bill only stipulates the packaging requirement for tobacco products. There will be room for further discussion on how we should deal with the packaging of cigars. We will come to that when we get to the stage. We understand that there are already logos on cigars products. If you remember, years ago, we were talking about 100% versus 70% instead of 85 and 85 to give room for cigar traders to include the anti-forgery features on the packaging. Now lastly, I'd like to turn to fruit-flavored cigarettes. I have the most concern about measures targeting flavored cigarettes. If you are to ban flavored cigarettes as well as menthol cigarettes for the next stage, well, I'm concerned about whether people would still want to come to Hong Kong. The administration is taking a different approach this time. Last time, it banned people from bringing e-cigarettes to Hong Kong. And back then, we had a discussion about whether it would prevent tourists from coming to Hong Kong. So we see that the administration is making a progress here because it's going to allow people to bring 19 sticks of cigarettes to Hong Kong. Now I have this question. You allow people to bring 19 sticks of cigarettes to Hong Kong, so there will be flavored cigarettes that are not duty paid in Hong Kong. If these cigarettes are opened, you won't be able to catch those who carry these duty not paid cigarettes. Are you worried that people will end up turning to the illicit cigarette market and there will be more people consuming flavored cigarettes? Customs and Excise Department will have numerous discussions about illicit cigarettes in the Council. The Customs and Excise Department has been dedicated to combating illicit cigarettes. We have ways to comprehensively combat illicit cigarettes, be they flavored cigarettes or traditional cigarettes. Customs and Excise Department has been working very hard. It has been breaking its record in terms of arresting the lawbreakers. Half of our tax revenue is gone, and that's because a lot of people have turned to illicit cigarettes. We should use common sense when we look at this problem. No matter how hard you work, I just want to tell you that with such a great incentive, I'm very worried that a lot of people will turn to illicit cigarettes. It's not just about money. Many people have money, but they cannot buy flavored cigarettes, so they turn to the illicit cigarette market. Professor Low has said a number of times that with the duty stamp system, there will be fewer people smoking illicit cigarettes. I don't think there is a linkage in this. You will only be able to combat cheap whites. Cheap whites are everywhere. Have you read today's Tsingtao Daily? Cheap whites are sold everywhere. And those who sell cheap whites, they're not scared of you, because there might be one pack of cigarettes among 100 or 1,000 cigarettes that are not duty paid. There are many people selling illicit cigarettes in public housing estates. You can go to nightclubs and see how many people are selling illicit cigarettes. Cheap whites are not the only market. Well, the CNED says it's working very hard, but I don't see a way for the administration to completely combat illicit cigarettes. Two members are waiting to speak, Ms. Connie Lam and Ms. Lillian Kwok. We've had 2 meetings now. We have covered different areas. And we have already covered the timetable for implementing the measures. We have covered no smoking areas, the penalty for providing smoking products to persons aged below 18, our international image after the launch of the tobacco control strategies, the impact on our local economy, and ways to combat illicit cigarettes, as well as the duty stamp system. We have focused on these issues in these 2 meetings. Apart from these areas, do we want to cover other areas? I have to manage the progress. 2 members plus Mr. Peter Hsu have asked to speak. I just want to let you know that we have covered the above areas a number of times. I want to see if there are other areas that need to be covered. Once we have finished the discussion on the policy matters, we will proceed to the clause-by-clause scrutiny of the bill. Next, Ms. Connie Lam. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on the question about how we can protect our young people from smoking. I asked whether it's possible to raise the legal age for buying cigarettes to 21, as the administration said they do not want young people to start smoking early. I want to ask about law enforcement actions for those aged below 18 if they are given smoking products. Well, the administration said if they are given a small amount, the penalty is $3,000 of fine. At most, it can go up to $25,000. How do you define a small amount of smoking products? Can the CNED elaborate? Also, will you learn from overseas practices and ask retailers to check the ID of young people who buy cigarettes? Will you penalize retailers that fail to check the ID of young people? Deputy Secretary, I thank Ms. Lam for the questions. On providing a small amount of smoking products to young people, well, according to the law, it's below 19 sticks of cigarettes that are not for commercial purposes. That's how we are drawing the line here. Now, on selling smoking products to young people, according to the current law, no smoking products could be sold to those aged below 18. Anyone who sells smoking products to those below 18, they are liable. They will be criminally liable. Ms. Lillian Kwok. I'd like to seek the administration's clarification on this. That's about prohibiting visitors from bringing ASPs. You specified inbound visitors. How about local citizens with Hong Kong ID card who went to the mainland and spent a night there, and within 24 hours they come back? Here you said inbound visitors. How do you define inbound visitors? Deputy Secretary. Thank you. Definition for inbound visitors. We are referring to visitors visiting Hong Kong or entering Hong Kong other than Hong Kongers. Mr. Peter Xu. Thank you, Chairman. You made things very clear, so I'm going to speak for the last round. Bar operators are very worried because water pipes have been very popular and they rented outdoor premises for providing water pipe smoking. If water pipes are to be banned, then bar operators will have their business suffer. We got people winning championship outside Hong Kong. There are many people interested in water pipe smoking. If you are to ban water pipes, are you worried that people will go to the mainland for water pipe smoking instead? Are you encouraging people to go to other places for water pipe smoking? Dr. Feng, please. We adopt the same approach as that for traditional smoking products when we regulate water pipes. Bars that offer water pipes, well, we have done surveys on them. According to our patrol records, there are about 120 bars that offer water pipe smoking. That accounts for a certain portion of the total number of bars in Hong Kong. Bars have to apply for licenses to run their businesses. And we have about 1,400 bars in Hong Kong, and among them 120 offer water pipes. Among these 120 bars, about 40 of them have no smoking areas. So normally people shouldn't smoke in these premises. As for the rest, that's about 80 of them. You may smoke in the smoking area, but we also see people smoking indoor. That's a no smoking area. So what I'm saying is that bars that are currently providing water pipes, they are doing it against the law. Our policy focuses on banning fruit-flavored or flavored cigarettes. From the tobacco control perspectives, it's not ideal to provide water pipes in these bars because this is considered as smoking. Water pipes have become more and more popular, and this is a public health issue. We don't see any specific reasons for us to exempt water pipes from flavored cigarettes or flavored tobacco products.
Mr. Xu, I'm glad that water pipe tobacco is becoming more popular in the world. Dr. Feng said that many people smoke water pipe tobacco illegally. Why don't you just arrest them? Many people actually smoke at Chinese restaurants, wet markets. There are many black spots. I think that the TACO should take enforcement action. I don't think that any logical member would stand up for them. What I was asking is if our economy will be affected and if people will be driven away from Hong Kong to Shenzhen. I don't need an answer from the administration. I think that we all know the answer to it. All I was saying is that we have to strike a balance between maintaining people's health and economic development. I think that we have to minimize the economic loss from the tobacco control measures. You don't have to repeat the harmful hazards of smoking. I laughed when Dr. Lam was speaking. He said that he looked out for no-smoke restaurants before they bring the children into the restaurants. We don't have any smoking restaurants in Hong Kong. If you see anyone smoking in a restaurant, you should call the hotline to arrest them. No country in the world bans smoking. Does that mean that parents should never bring their children to any other countries? I will press for another round. Thank you. On the heated cigarettes and flavored cigarettes that are going to be banned after a certain day, the government will take enforcement action. However, vaping devices will not be banned. Some members said that these devices are private property. That's why the government is not prohibiting its possession. However, without the chemical substance, people cannot smoke them despite having the devices. However, I believe that some people still have some stocks of these substances. Will you confiscate the substances from the people? Will you ask them to dispose of them after a certain day? Who will take the question? How should people deal with the remaining stock? Undersecretary. We actually focus on the chemicals instead of the vaping devices. There are many people who use the devices to smoke drug. You see people distributing these substances to people outside primary school. We will provide a way for people to dispose of their substances. Now, in response to Mr. Xiu's point about Dr. Lam's question, the administration at other countries said that the freedom of smoking should end. And that's where the freedom of having a smoke-free city for children begins. We all care about our next generation. I think that Mr. Xiu shares the same view. We all want a fresh air for our next generation. Let me make a response. So after you've spoken, I will proceed to clause-by-clause examination. Smoking is harmful to health. People who are smoking should quit. We all agree with this overall direction. But an adult should be given the right to make a choice. We are an international metropolis. We should align our practice with other major cities. Will smoking affect other people? Of course it will if someone smokes here, but in an open area, the impact is not as substantial. You may be concerned about the person who smokes. You may love him. That's why you want him to quit smoking. There are many kind-hearted people in Hong Kong. We don't want people to smoke. There's not a problem to it. Now, regarding freedom, when I visited other countries, many people complained to me that our measures are too strict. They said that our measures are not fair. I asked them to tell the government directly. There is a friend of mine who come back to Hong Kong from Canada. I met with him and he told me that we should not be so selfish. We should be considerate to both smokers and non-smokers. That's what he said to me. I understand his anger. I will send this clip of mine to my friend because I said that I'm going to air out his disgruntled here. I think that we have covered all the policy matters of this piece of legislation. I do understand that members have diverse views, but I believe that we have covered all necessary discussions in these two meetings. I believe that during the clause-by-clause examination, we're going to cover the points that we've talked about earlier on. So now we proceed to clause-by-clause examination. Long title. Please refer to the blue bill. When we've come to part 2, we will refer to the marked up copy. That is CB bracket 3687/2025 bracket 02. But I'd like to draw members' attention to the long title in the blue bill first. I believe that's at page C3241. Under Secretary, who will lead us in the clause-by-clause examination? Thank you, Chairman. We agree with your proposed arrangement. Let's look at the blue bill first. We received some questions from the legal advisor, and we have submitted a written response in Chinese. We're going to supplement with the English translation later on. I will address the legal advisor's questions when we come to the relevant clauses. Okay. Page C3241, long title, a bill to amend various ordinances to implement a duty stamp regime for tobacco, to increase the penalties for offenses relating to tobacco on which duty is not paid. There will be transitional arrangements. Part 1. Part preliminary. Clauses 1 and 2. They are about the implementation date of the measures. The timetable has been explained to a member in these two meetings. Bracket 2, subject to subsections 3, 4, and 5, the ordinance comes into operation on a date to be appointed by the Secretary for Health by notice published in the Gazette. Subsection 3, the following provisions come into operation on the day on which this ordinance is published in the Gazette. Bracket 4, Part 4, and Section 56 come into operation on the 30th of April 2026. (38) bracket 5 is about the pilot scheme to be implemented by the CNED. Part 10 is miscellaneous. Clause 1, bracket 4 is about the possession of ASP. The ban will come into operation on the 30th of April 2026, along with the ban of providing ASP to persons aged below 18. But as the Undersecretary has said, we are going to review the implementation date. Subclause 5, that's about the expansion of the NSAs and some fixed penalty notices. The penalty will be raised from 1,500 to 3,000. These will come into operation on the 1st of January 2026. I see that Mr. Shukafa has pressed the button. Please. Thank you. In the long title, it is said that conventional smoking products will be banned. I have a question for the legal advisor. Under the 10 tobacco control measures, there are some that don't affect the wider general public. However, I think that some are too aggressive. For flavored cigarettes and menthol cigarettes, I don't think that we should ban them, because many countries and cities in the world allow for it. I hope that the administration will amend the implementation date. Now, because this measure is included in the long title, will I still be able to move amendment to the commencement date? Will the president of the LegCo reject my application for amendment? Well, I think that's about the form of amendment. Legal advisor, please. For item included in the long title, I will not be able to amend it. My amendment was rejected by the president of LegCo previously. But because heated cigarettes is included in the long title, will I still be able to move amendment on the item? Legal advisor, I think that I have to look at the wordings of your amendment before I can give you any advice. It's hard for me to give you an answer as of right now. Mr. Xu, please note the answer. The secretary will talk to you more about this later on. Regarding Part 1 preliminary and the long title, commencement dates, short title, any questions? Mr. Xu? Can I talk about the negative vetting part? Can I talk about the negative vetting approach here? As the meeting is about to end, I will extend the meeting until we have handled this issue. Legal advisor? Or the administration? Should we discuss it here? No? Okay. I think we should discuss it when we come to it. We have begun our clause-by-clause examination. We have just covered the long title and preliminary short title and commencement. In our next meeting, the next meeting will be held at 4:30 p.m. on the 9th of June 2025. That's on Monday. There being no other business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
唔該。 唔該晒，唔該。